and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be walking you through or introducing you to EPF. What is EPF? First of all, EPF is Ethereum Protocol Fellowship. So from the word fellowship, you can already tell that it's more like a bootcamp or a school. So at EPF, you get to learn more about the Ethereum protocol, how to contribute to the Ethereum protocol, various ways you can contribute to the protocol. But before you get into the fellowship, there are a few things you need to take note of or that you need to do. First of all, you need to apply to be part of the cohort. So right now we are in cohort 5, which is the one I am currently participating in. So to get in, you apply. So after applying, they do make selections from the list of applications or from all the applicants. And I think in my cohorts, we're told that 20 persons were selected. But that's not all. What happens when you're not selected? Like in my own case, I wasn't really selected, but I joined the fellowship. How? So this is where the permissionless aspect of the fellowship comes in. So if you're not selected in your application, that is not the end of the world. You can still participate in the fellowship by joining permissionlessly. So all you need to do is to let the organizing team know that you want to participate, whether or not you were initially selected. And then you send them your information. So if you already applied before, they already would have that information recorded. So how does the fellowship work? So basically, once you get into the fellowship is like a 5-month program. For those that are selected, they get paid a stipend, which I'm not quite sure what that looks like. And then for those that are not selected, you don't get paid anything, but you're just participating permissionlessly. We have quite a number of persons that join the fellowship, even in these courses, that are also participating permissionlessly. So now that you're in the fellowship, what happens there in the fellowship? What do you do in the fellowship? Or what does it really look like? So basically, in the fellowship, you get to learn, like I said earlier, you get to learn more about the Ethereum protocol. That's like on the general notes. So in the course of the fellowship, the first few weeks of the fellowship, let's call it like a month, you get to learn more about Ethereum. You go through the Ethereum protocol, the EPFSG, that's the study group wiki documentation to read more about the protocol, different aspects, the consensus layer, the execution clients, the research, and different aspects that will be of interest, security, cryptography, and all of that. You get to see those information in EPFSG wiki. So as a fellow, what do you do? Like I said, the first few weeks are there for you to learn more about the protocol. After that, you get to select a topic or a project you want to work on. Good enough for somebody that is new, it can be pretty difficult trying to come up with something that you want to work on, especially when you're still trying to learn about the protocol. So now, when you get in, there's a cohort GitHub repository that will be made available to you. And in that repository, you get to learn about different project ideas that you can pick from. So those project ideas were listed by mentors, people that are core developers or core protocol engineers in the Ethereum ecosystem already. And then they just post or set some ideas, suggest ideas, especially based off of the fact that these might be issues that they are currently facing that has not yet been worked on, and they want to seize this opportunity from the fellows to give them an opportunity to start their contribution from those problems that are already in existence without you having to think about what you're going to work on. So now, when you go through the list, you go over the list and then you select the one that piques your interest or that you are interested in, and then you can write your project proposal around it and start working on that particular project. And then basically for the fellowship, what we do normally is that every week we have what we call a weekly stand-up where you get to report everything you have been working on. And then on Tuesdays are usually 4 office hours where we get to listen to other core developers or core engineers in the Ethereum protocol that come to share their experience, and even those that are past EPF fellows that are some of which are currently working with some of those protocols, some of the Ethereum protocols. They come to the office hours to share their experience, and then we get to learn a bit or one or two from whatever they have to share, and also have the opportunity to ask them questions, because in these sessions we usually have like what we call an A&A session, where you can ask them anything that you feel like asking, or probably you're working in any of the client services or protocol that relates to what the speaker, the invited guest, is going to or has worked on or is currently working on, so you can ask questions. So that's how the EPF runs, and you submit your weekly updates as well by form of pull requests. So you write a blog post using any platform of your choice, and you link whatever blog post you have written to your weekly update. So there's a GitHub repository that you're going to make a pull request and then submit your update. So that update could, after writing it in any of the blog platform of your choice, you can then put it as a link in your updates. Let's say update 9 or update 5, you just put a link to where the update is, so that the mentors and the organizers of the program can go through it and see what you have done, and probably leave comments where necessary. So now you have known how the EPF works and what goes on in EPF. There might be still a question in your mind that you are wondering, like, okay, so who can get into this EPF program? Yeah. So at this point, I would like to let you know that anybody can be part of EPF. Part of EPF, you need to come with some background knowledge of some certain things. Those are some prerequisites, because the program is a little bit kind of like advanced, in the sense that you are more or less going to be working independently. If you have the opportunity to work with other people in a team, fine, but sometimes you might be working alone, and even when you are working with other people, you are still pretty much going to be doing a lot of things by yourself, and only have to reach out to your mentors or your peers when things get tough. So now, that means to say you need to have some background knowledge in whatever aspect you know you're interested in. So let's say you're a developer, you need to have some knowledge of development, like building solutions, or have some basic knowledge of the Ethereum protocol, or building on the blockchain space and things like that. And then you probably already started developing before now. And if you're a researcher, you need to have some work to your name, like things you have actually worked on before, some research work you have done that are going to be useful. And then if you're a security analyst, you just have to know some things about security, what you've been doing before, and things to show. And all those things also have a way of impacting on your application once you apply. So for those that, to stand a better chance to be selected once you apply, all these things I just mentioned are very important. And from the feedback I got from my own application is that you need like some good contributions that you have made before, like almost open source contributions to the protocol in the past. So that could help your application, because not everybody in the fellowship are completely new. Some people have already gotten this basic knowledge or have already started contributing, while a good number are completely new to the protocol and all of that, or protocol development. So with all this basic knowledge, contributing to protocol, having research papers, doing some security works in the past, you stand a better chance of being accepted. And like I said, if you're not accepted, you can still join permissionlessly. And having this knowledge will make things a lot easier for you going forward. So because I'm sharing this because I didn't have knowledge as far as the protocol is concerned. I just do development on the application level. So coming to the fellowship, a lot of things were kind of like very new to me. Like I was just like, it's as if I was just starting to learn about Ethereum for the first time. So yeah, if you already have those knowledge, it's going to be a plus. It's going to make things a lot easier. But if you don't, you can still learn them in the fellowship. So for me, in fact, when I started, I didn't even realize that I could even get this far to even start contributing to any of the protocols. So right now, I'm currently contributing to BESO and the TECO clients. My project is around adding ephemeral support for the TECO and the BESO clients, and also to make modifications to the documentation of the ephemeral testnet. So I hope to do more in the ecosystem and the protocol level, and to continue contributing. I hope you found this video useful, and if you do, please do it to like the video, subscribe and share it, and I will see you next time.